Welcome to the Hyper Voice. My name is Stephen Morioka. I am joined today by Alex Underhill.
Hello, Stephen.
And a very special guest, Calvin Chan.
Hello.
Okay, guys, we are recording in San Francisco in our hotel. This is currently Thursday night, and what we're going to be doing for this episode is short segments from each day coming live at the World Championships. So these segments that'll be broken down for this episode will be portions of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night recordings. So we'll let you know when those breaks happen, and I'll make it obvious for you. But we're just going to talk about some of our first impressions on this first day. Before we do that, I just kind of want to give an intro to Calvin Chan. Some of you old-timers may remember his name. He was actually the runner-up in the Journey Across America National Tournament. Calvin, what was it like playing in that tournament, and how does it feel being coming to play at Worlds today?
Well, it was 10 years ago, but I still find that to be one of the best experiences of my life. That was my first year playing competitively in Pokemon, and I've loved it ever since. So it's, yeah, like I said, one of the best experiences of my life. And compared to this time, it's definitely a throwback to that, because in that year we can use restricted legendaries just like we can this year. So definitely see some familiar Pokemon there, and I think the format is great, even though some people don't like it as much. But Pokemon in general is a great game, so I'm happy doing this here.
Very cool. And another cool thing is that we were both playing in the Journey Across America tournament and the 2016 format this season. And it's cool that we were playing when Pokemon was celebrating its 10th anniversary, and now we're celebrating its 20th anniversary here in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's really cool that you guys got to experience something like that so long ago, because I really wish I could have been playing in the competitive circuit back then, and since I'm such a fresh face to the scene, it's really cool to get to experience working with older veterans like you guys.
We may be older, but may not be better, so we'll see about that. But that's the past. We're here in San Francisco for the World Championships. Guys, what have your impressions been on San Francisco so far? Just, the plane trip over here, the BART system, so the train, the city we've seen so far, and I just dropped my phone. That was hilarious. What are your impressions so far?
Well, my trip over here was pretty alright. I flew and got a connecting flight from LAX, and so it was about 7 hours of flying, and I didn't get any meals, but I still managed to make it through and then get to the venue and finally get some food, and then we waited in line for what seemed like forever. We just kind of stood there and played Go in line with a bunch of other people around us speaking different languages that I couldn't understand. So that was kind of a neat experience for my first Worlds, but I would definitely skip out on the waiting in line. That wasn't the most fun. Pretty tired after all that. We've done a lot of walking today, back and forth between the venue and the hotel, and just walking around the venue, just waiting in line all day long. But I think San Francisco's a really nice city. It's really cool looking. There's a lot of beautiful landscape, and I really like a lot of the architecture here. So what do you think of it so far, Calvin?
You hit on a lot of the same points I would have said. The architecture is great. City is very nice. The Pokemon Go part was definitely interesting, because there are some features that appeared here, whereas we didn't get that back home. Maybe it's because they were testing it in San Francisco area. But I thought that was pretty cool. I caught a pretty high CP Magmar today, so I thought that was cool.
Yeah, that's right. The answer is always Magmar. And all of the Pokemon Go stuff is really cool here. They have a unique feature for the city because it's Niantic's based out around this area. So that's a pretty cool feature. And what did you guys think of... Well, we didn't get to see much of the venue where we're actually playing yet today. But what did you think of the registration line, all the decorations, and the light up and stuff they've had set up so far?
I think that they decorated really well. I liked a lot of the decorations, and the hotel, or I guess the venue, is good looking. I like just the style of it, but the size of it is definitely small.
I'd have to agree. This venue is it seems very different compared to past years. You know, we did just have this issue of Pokemon releasing a statement saying this event is not open to the public, and this is the first time ever this has happened. So, what are your impressions on that?
I think they should have it open to the public because that's how you're gonna get more interest in the game. I mean, if you have it closed off, then only the people who are competing are part of it, and then the rest of the people are not really gonna be able to enjoy the same experience unless they're watching on stream, which is not exactly the same as if they're in person. Especially since they made this announcement fairly late in the process, where some people might have already kind of made plans to come here that are not competing, but they won't actually be able to join in on the festivities.
Yes, it's unfortunate. I guess that we're going to have to make do with what's available to us. We do apologize, on our behalfs. We're competitors at this tournament, so we'll be able to at least get in and play for the first day. And, it's an unfortunate circumstance, and we hope this does not happen again in the future. And I guess on the joking side, we did see a nice park. There's a bunch of Pokestops around San Francisco, and there's a movie theater right next to the hotel. So there is stuff for spectators to do. I'm sorry, guys. We really don't mean that in a harsh way. It's just the reality of what's happening right now. But moving on, we're going to talk about some basic questions heading into day one of Worlds tomorrow. As we mentioned previously, we're all going to be competing, and what I basically just wanted to ask you guys is some simple questions. So I guess we can all go around for this. What are you guys most excited about tomorrow?
I'm most excited to play against other players around the world. This will actually be the first time that I'll get to do that in person. I mean, I've done that plenty of times on BattleSpot, but that's definitely not the same as a best of 3 environment with players all over the country, and they've all earned their invitations to come here, so they're all going to be great players, and definitely looking forward to playing against some of those people.
I definitely have to agree with Calvin. That was one of the things that I was most looking forward to. And another thing that I'm really excited for is I'm just excited to play, because I think that just before the event, I finally managed to find a team that I'm really feeling good about. And I think that I'm going to have fun with this team, regardless of how the tournament goes, but just because it seems to fit my style. And I think it has a strong chance to go far. How about you, Steven?
I'm really excited to be competing against all the other great international players we have here. And I guess kind of to go along with that, with playing other players, is I do hope that I get to play against more players from other regions than I do against other North American players, because that's the scene I'm obviously most familiar with. And I'm hoping to just get that experience to play against more international players. I think it makes Worlds more fun that way. And just experiencing the event, being able to compete against all these different players is really cool. There's a lot of different play styles coming in from all around the world, and the best way to experience that is to play against those players. I don't want to play against someone from the Midwest where we can always get matched up in a Premier Challenge or Regional, etc. Because why did I come to San Francisco if I could have just played you there? Or why do we bother coming to San Francisco if we're playing here? We'd rather just play at home locally. But, do you guys get what I mean with playing other international players?
Yeah, I definitely think that the international aspect is what makes Worlds Worlds. You get players from all over the world, and you want to play them to, get a feel for different styles, different team archetypes, and I think that's going to be one of the most fun parts about this tournament is you're going to need a team that's very well-rounded and prepared for just about everything that's popular all over the globe. You can't really just play to beat the American-style meta anymore. You have to play to beat players from Europe, from Australia, from Japan, from Latin America. There's so many different team varieties and team play styles, and so that's going to be really fun to see who manages to come out on top and is just the most consistent at playing players from all over.
And this will also be a good learning experience for many of us here. Just be able to see the different play styles and learn how each different ones have their own strengths and weaknesses, how yours may not necessarily match up well against it, and what can you do to improve upon in the future.
Right. Given how many players this is their first time competing at the World Championships, this will be a brand new experience for everyone. And playing against an international player is very different in person than it is playing on, say, Battle Spot. So this will be a great learning experience, just great experience playing Pokemon in general. So I guess moving on with that in the international scene, are there any particular players you guys want to play, as in, say, maybe nationalities or anything like that? Any people you want to avoid?
For me personally, I think that I'm most scared of playing the Japanese just because of the unpredictability in their team compositions. They usually run something that might just seem plain and boring, a strong team or something like that, but then they manage to sneak in all these little techs that can tear your team apart or just catch you off guard. And I feel like even in a best of three, they're going to pull these off, and it's going to be dangerous facing them. For people that I want to face, no region in particular, just because I'm most excited to play all over. But like you said earlier, I think it would be best if I just didn't play so many Americans, because they're people that I have a lot more opportunities to play, and the international scene is really what I'm here for.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I would say Japanese and maybe even Korean players would be in that camp for me, where they could be very strong and definitely have ways to beat the standard things that a lot of North American players are used to. So that, and then, but I think overall, I don't think there's anybody that I would really just say like, oh, I really want to avoid or play. But because I want to play against everybody in general, just because I'm here to have fun. I'm here to experience all these different types of play styles. So I wouldn't say I want any particular thing excluded from that.
Yeah, exactly. If there are any specific regions I want to play against, that would be Australia and Latin America. I hope to play against some of those players because I haven't had that chance to yet. So, moving on, another question is about the primals, and I'm going to stick with this specific question for just Primal Groudon. Now, in your opponent, when they have a Groudon, I'm going to say you can only choose one of these options, but would you rather know that Groudon's speed or its moveset? What's more important to you finding out in the best of three?
I think the earliest thing that I'm going to look for against an opposing Groudon would be probably the moveset. I think that once you know that what its move pool is, the general speed of it is something that you can try to play around with speed control. Whereas in game one, the moves are what's going to try to throw you off the hardest, and if it's a special Groudon and you expect physical, you're going to get really messed up, and vice versa. So if I could find that out as early as possible and manage to play safely around its very high offensive power, I think that's what's most important to me.
Yeah, I have to agree, because especially since speed is, you can't always tell for sure anyway because of speed ties. Whereas movesets, it's very clear what the Pokemon is running, especially based on the damage calculations, or like how much your Pokemon is taking damage from them. So yes, the moveset's probably more important.
I'm going to disagree with you guys here and say I would like to know the speed more importantly than the moveset. I can generally infer movesets from the rest of the team composition and what the Groudon is surrounded with, and otherwise, other than the typical ground moves it'll have and the fire moves, either Eruption or Fire Punch, maybe sometimes even Overheat, there's those filler moves like Roar and Substitute and even Safeguard. Those are kind of the funkier ones. Swords Dance has become much more staple over the past few months, but I can generally infer that moveset. I would prefer to know the speed in the moveset if I could only know one of them, say beforehand going into a match.
You definitely bring up a good point. I realize that team preview is definitely a thing, and sometimes teams just kind of spell it out really obviously, and when you see like a Groudon paired with a Bronzong, you're very often going to expect it to be Gravity alongside Precipice Blades. And so I see what you mean, yeah. Like knowing the speed tier really helps, whether Trick Room is going to be most beneficial to them, or if they're actually going to try to get away with like Icy Wind or Tailwind from an opposing Pokemon. paired with that Groudon. So I can see why you want to know the speed tier so that you can play around it and make sure that you're getting your moves in first to prevent it from doing all that damage.
Cool. Anything else to add, Calvin?
No, I think you guys covered everything.
Awesome. Well, so we'll wrap up this Thursday night because it's kind of late. We need to get to sleep so we can be ready to play tomorrow. This comes from a question asked by a listener/viewer from KCoon15. And this is, I'll try to paraphrase this. Do day one teams being published this year affect the results moving forward? And I don't actually know if that's going to be happening for Worlds tomorrow, but I think it was kind of referring to some of the Nationals day one teams being published prior to day two, but I think those were also teams that didn't qualify for day two anyway. So let's just say hypothetically, if everyone's day one teams who qualified for day two are published, do you think this would affect results moving forward? And also remember that players can also just change their teams between days one and two.
Well, I think an event that's most related to this would be what happened at the Japan Nationals, where going into, I believe, the top 8 and definitely the finals, all the moves and items and stuff like that was out there. The teams, they released everything and just posted it for everyone to see. And so that was an interesting dynamic going into the elimination bracket, knowing everything about your opponent's team. It kind of changes the entire best of 3, where it's no longer about learning information over the course of a set. It's about knowing everything and just playing to beat them, expecting like exact moves and stuff like that, because you know the full moveset, the full item, exactly what these Pokemon are capable of. So I think that if the day one teams were posted, it would definitely give day two players a huge advantage. But I think that most day one players would probably opt to switch teams or just switch things up. And just maybe make minor tweaks just to throw people off if they want to keep sticking with a team that they're comfortable with. Just minor tweaks just to keep an edge on opponents and make them harder to read.
I mean, it's. I guess I would think about it from the business side of things too. There's probably a good reason why they want to do that. Maybe more from kind of like the marketing aspect of it and getting people interested and kind of seeing what teams are being run by like good players in the tournament. So I think that'll get more people excited and more into play in the future. Seeing like what kinds of teams do well. So I definitely understand it from that standpoint. They're probably not thinking as much about kind of like how the individual competitors may think about how that would affect their gameplay.
Yeah, to go along with what you guys were saying, probably a good thing. Maybe it's an interesting aspect from the marketing side, but publishing teams it's questionable. I guess it really doesn't matter that much because people have the option to change teams. So if Pokemon decide to publish them, that's cool. That's fine. After day one, especially, that information is going to be spreading around like wildfire, like crazy. So I don't see that much of a problem with it, especially with just all those issues we just mentioned previously.
As a day one player, you can't expect everything that you bring to day two if you qualify to be secret. You need to either switch things up or just be prepared for people to know your movesets and to just play strong, play confident, and just, like I said, just keep an edge for yourself.
And speaking of day one, before we finally wrap up Thursday night, one quick thing we'll go over. We won't go into much details for this. We'll probably go over it tomorrow after day one's over. But what are the teams we're bringing to day one? I'll just go ahead and get mine out of the way. I'm just using the Big B team, so the original Big Six, replacing Talonflame with Bronzong. We saw this pretty popular in Japan and the U.S. Nationals recently. So that's what I'm bringing to day one.
I'm actually bringing a team that's based largely off of Big B or like Big Six with Bronzong. And what I decided to do was take out Xerneas because of how little Big B supports it, and decided to add in a Dialga instead to help against like Rick Ogre, which is what like the Europeans might be using, or other people from outside of the US because it's not that popular here. And so I really thought it would be a better pick for the international meta. I've got a bunch of other things in there that aren't quite exactly Big Six, but they're Pokemon to help me get an edge in against teams similar to mine. So look forward to seeing that.
But Alex, what are your Pokemon?
You want to know all of them?
You just have to tell us the species. You don't have to give more details.
Well, besides that, I've got Smeargle, Dialga, Groudon, Salamence, Scrafty, Bronzong. I think that's 6. I'm not the best at counting. But...
yeah, that sounds about right. All right, good job. Well, thank you for sharing. By the time people are listening to this, we're already going to have a world champion. So, Kelvin, what's your team?
I went with Big C because C for Calvin. But no, really, it's that it's essentially the Big Six take out Talonflame with Cresselia. I think those 6 together cover a lot of different threats in the game, and it seems to be fairly consistent overall. So especially going up against a lot of different variety of teams and playstyles, I think having a consistent team is a good idea.
Very neat. I think we got an interesting spread within our little trio here. All of us are bringing Groudon, so that's interesting. And then we've got a Dialga here, so that'll be very cool to see play out tomorrow.
Yeah, wish me luck. I'm going to try to diversify the cut and make it to that day 2 to guarantee my entry into the venue.
Nice. Well, wishing you and Calvin all the best of luck tomorrow. Good luck to all of us. We're hoping for the best. Hopefully we play well enough too. We're really going to enjoy the stream. It's going to be the first day of tons of Pokemon action. And do you guys have any closing thoughts for Thursday night?
Nothing else left for me to say, but good luck to you too, Steven.
Oh, thanks.
Good luck all around.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow for the next end of the day wrap-up.
And welcome back to Friday's portion of the episode. Day 1 has concluded, and I am again, our guests are here. We're going to talk about what happened today. Of the 3 of us, Alex made it to day 2. You qualified. How do you feel about that?
Spoilers, man. I didn't get to tell him myself.
Oh, sorry. Well, go ahead.
Well, I did actually manage to qualify for day 2. I made it to 6-1, losing my 5th round to James Bake. But from there, I had a couple games go to 3, a couple games just 2-0s. But I didn't play too much variety in teams. I pretty much played the 3 standard cores that you'd expect to see. Rayquaza, Kyogre, I played that once. And from there, it was just alternating dual primals, or dual primal, and Big Six, or variations of it. So, very much stuff that I was prepared for. That was good to see. They had a couple of techs in there to make the matchup harder, or stuff like that. But overall, I knew what I needed to do, and I got it done. And I did it in 7 rounds instead of 8, so that was a lot less stressful for me. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for it. I think going forward, I'm probably going to keep the same team just because I have a level of comfortability with it. People might have an idea of what it does, but as long as I play strong, they might know the moves, but they don't know how it plays. They might not know how to stop me from getting in good positions and stuff like that to get off lots of damage. So, how about you guys?
Well, I personally didn't do as well. Went 3-5, and there were points after my 3rd loss where obviously I was between, a good medium between rage and tears. And, people know me for being able to control my emotions pretty well. And I guess I was able to do that, so you never really saw that. And, I was also put on stream at 2 and 3, which confused me too. A little embarrassing. Wish that didn't happen at that point, but it is what it is.
I also went 3-5. I actually, unlike Alex, I actually ran into some weird stuff in the early rounds, and that some of that caught me off guard for sure. But overall, it was still a good day, just because having the chance to play the different players from different countries. I think I only played like 1 American player, and then the rest of them are from other countries, which was pretty cool.
All right, very cool. And so I guess we can start talking about the day, just the world's experience from the very beginning. I'd say when we showed up at the venue, What were some interesting things that happened right when we got there, Steven?
We had to line up in single file to get in. I don't know if anyone else heard that, but
Single file only. Nobody gets in otherwise.
we're not allowed to enter in waves. But watching the opening ceremonies from a screen in a separate room was really different when you're at Worlds, when you could have been at the stage. We were in the wrong room.
Yeah, we got kind of trapped. We went downstairs and we walked into one of the ballrooms, which is I believe the Great Ballroom or something like that.
Golden Gate.
Golden Gate Ballroom, that's what it was. The Golden Gate Ballroom. And so we just went in there, and from there they tried to keep people in the rooms. And there's another ballroom where they're hosting the other section, and that was the Yerba Buena Ballroom. That was where the main stage was, where everything was happening live. And instead, we had to watch all of that on a screen because we had no idea. So it would have been nice to have been informed, at least maybe pack everyone in the same room so we could all watch it, but nothing we can do about that now. But how about that promo video? Calvin, what'd you think of that?
Crab Roller.
Yes, I thought that was pretty cool. It was funny how they showed how that thing just knocks out like all the threats in the meta right now. but of course, my question is, at what HP? Were they already at like low health, or was it at full health? Like they all one shots? I don't know.
No. I think either way, it was a great intro for the tournament. It just made everyone so happy to see it knock out Kangaskhan and Smeargle, and there were other things, but those are the two most notable ones I remember.
While we didn't get much information, I think that was just a great way to just start off the event and just get everyone happy and laughing, because they were just beating up all the most common things that we love or hate seeing in VGC.
In terms of things we were seeing, what would you guys say or think about the diversity you saw on the first day? Not necessarily just the restricted cores or mega Pokemon, but what were some kind of unique things you saw today?
So, like I said, I had a pretty standard run. Some of the more interesting things I saw, I guess the very most interesting that I can think of off the top of my head was Gourgeist. I know what Gourgeist does, so it was nice that it didn't try to catch me off guard. But it's still something that you don't see very often, and it's kind of neat. It was on a Ray Ogre team, and it had Mawile, but thankfully I have ways to deal with Mawile and with Gourgeist. And what was very funny in that Gourgeist game was in the very first turn of the game, I led Dialga and Smeargle into Gourgeist and Mawile, and I went for Dark Void, and I double missed. And then with my Dialga, I went for Trick Room. And the Gourgeist also went for Trick Room. And the Mawile went for Play Rough onto my Dialga. And it missed too. So Trick Room was reversed, or set up, and then reversed. And then Dark Void double missed, and Play Rough missed. So we essentially accomplished nothing. We wasted PP. That's all we did. I was actually bursting out laughing at that turn just because that was just so funny to me.
What a fun way to spend some of that timer on those turns.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There were 3 notable things that happened, well, besides RNG stuff. One was Choice Specs Xerneas with Helping Hand support. That essentially gets you the Geomancy power right off the bat. I thought that was a pretty cool tech. There was another one that I ran into where it's like a complete shutdown of pretty much any Big Six variant. I'm not gonna say what it is because I may run a variant of that someday. So I'll keep that for now to myself. And then the last one was Smeargle versus Smeargle, where all we did was Crafty Shield at each other, and that was fun for 10 turns or something. I almost ran out of Crafty Shield PP doing that. That was pretty hilarious, actually.
I feel like when you get into those situations where it's Crafty Shield Smeargle versus Crafty Shield Smeargle, it's like, all right, hey, don't touch me. And then the other Smeargle's like, well, you know what? I won't touch you if you don't touch me. We're just gonna not touch each other. Just stay away. Leave me alone.
Yeah, the Smeargles are very particular. They're very sensitive with the tips of their tails when they're painting. They can't get them too wet, otherwise...
Yeah, you might not be able to Dark Void you to sleep.
It'll start smearing too much, otherwise you can't dry out your tail either.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you fainted.
Yep. It sounds like you're describing Charmander, honestly.
That's water, though. Oh, okay, yeah. Charmander, sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
He carries that leaf Remember the anime?
Yeah, that was like a big deal. Anyway, moving on, what other things happened today that were notable and worth talking about?
Oh yeah, we played in flights.
Oh, that's a big part of the tournament. Yeah, that was actually different. I believe this is the first Worlds to do that.
For video game, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Steven, do you want to talk about that? Maybe explain what happened exactly?
Sure. Well, the flights were random. Obviously, they should have been random. Didn't seem like there was any way to seed them. So the flights are random. They're about 200 in each. So we had a little over 400 players for day one. Of those, we looked this up right before we started recording this Friday, and there were about 61 who advanced from day one to day two. So adding them to the day two players who came with the buys and are here, that'll get us to around 50 plus the new 61, which is around 110. So that should be a good tournament for day two. Should give us about 7 rounds to play. So what are you guys thinking about tomorrow?
Well, I think you guys are definitely thinking different things about me, or different things than me for tomorrow. I hope you guys are thinking about me. I hope you guys are rooting for me. But anyway, I'm just getting geared up for further competition. I got to achieve that same goal of just not getting 2 losses. Try to get pulled out of the tournament as early as possible by reaching 5 wins in this case. Just like I had to reach 6 wins today. And it's funny because although this should be the harder competition, I feel a little bit better about it just with less rounds because it feels like I have less wins to get. I feel like I have less opportunities to lose. So that's at least a positive part of it. Because sometimes when you're at like U.S. Nationals and stuff like that and you play 9 rounds, you think, oh man, like I only have 2 losses and I have to go all day and just play so well. Where 7 rounds against a lot tougher opponents, while it probably is worse, at least going into it mentally, I'm thinking that it might be better just because like I said, I have less opportunities to lose, and as long as I play strong against these players, I shouldn't tire out as quickly because the rounds won't last as long, or we won't be playing as long. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm thinking for my experience for day 2. What about you guys?
Mostly just relaxing, watching matches. Maybe go to the Pokemon Center store place to see if there's anything cool there.
I'm excited to watch, cheer on our friends. Shout outs obviously to Alex here. He made it to day 2, so congrats. Hopefully there's bigger things. But shout outs to the rest of our Illinois players who made it to day 2. Dane Zeman, Kamal Harris, and barely just off the tip of Missouri, but actually still lives in Illinois, Drew Novak. You still count. We're proud of all you guys. Good luck tomorrow.
What about Grayson Guerin? I'm not sure. Did Grayson Guerin make it?
Let's go ahead and look through that.
He was in Flight 1, and I believe he made it in, but I'm not positive.
Alright, let's just quickly look through that.
Yeah, and it seems like
he did.
He made it in at 6-2 in the very last round, so that's another player from Illinois. And
shout outs to Grayson Guerin. Sorry we missed you in the first announcement, but we love you too.
But we know now. And let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, so yeah, I was like sitting at one of the benches, and I guess I must have forgotten, or one of the seats, and I must have forgotten my 3DS right after I had talked to Marcus Stadter, and thankfully he actually just like saw it, picked it up, and was smart enough to turn it on and see who it belonged to, and saw my name and like guessed that it was me, and so he came over to me and he was like, "Is this yours?" and showed it to me, and I was like, "Wait, like yeah, that's me. Like, do you have my friend code or something?" And I was like, "Oh no, that's my 3DS." I almost just lost my 3DS. That was a very scary moment for me. I was actually like, I was just in shock seeing it in his hands. I was just like, how did that get away from me? Like, that's the most important thing I need to bring for tomorrow. And just in general, like, that's what I compete with. So it was very awesome for him to save that for me. Thanks so much, man. I really owe you. And yeah, at least now I can compete. I don't have to worry about getting a new team together and everything else.
Yeah, Marcus, thank you so much for your kindness. No, it's very much appreciated for both Alex and everyone else, really. That's honestly just doing the right thing. And, Yoshi's been saving toddlers for decades now, so thank you. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about that happened today? Any any players who made it to day 2 or didn't make it to day 2 you want to talk about?
I do know that 3 of my opponents, at the very least, made it to day 2, if not more. I played 2 Christians from different countries that weren't the U.S. I mostly played... No, I had an even mix. No, not an even mix. But I did play mostly U.S. players, which we did talk about yesterday. It's kind of a bummer because you can play them any time in the year. But they were good matches. I played 4 U.S. players, then a Mexican player, and a Great Britain player, and I believe a German player. And that was really cool. It was cool to kind of see their different styles and see how they play. I was really surprised because when I played one of the Europeans, I typically don't expect them to have a big 6 type of archetype. I mostly expect Rayogre and Double Primal, so when I turned on the game and I saw that it was big 6 with Raichu, I was just kind of like, oh! No, well, now I have to deal with this. But that was really cool. In terms of other cool things that happened today, just in general, like, what did you think of the venue once we actually got inside, Calvin? Like, once we got to see where we were competing and stuff like that?
Well, I guess the only thing that I would complain about it was no cell reception. So, like, people who wanted to, like, check pairings or anything like that, you know, some of them had a hard time doing that online or just using the internet in general. But other than that, it's still a good place overall, I think.
You can't check your pairings. You can't talk with your friends, or you can't text your friends. You can't use the tweeter easily. But otherwise, yeah, it would have been nice if we weren't in a basement. Pretty much, that's where we were.
Well, you see, we mentioned earlier that they were divided up into flights and how we were in a separate room when we watched the intro to the opening ceremony. And so Steven was in that downstairs room where they had... Steven and Calvin were both in that downstairs room where the main stage were. And upstairs was I, back in that original room. And in that room, we did not get any of our players to come up onto the stream. I think maybe in the very first round we had some, like, one pairing go up there, but from then on they decided it wasn't worth it because it was too much distance to cover and it would delay the tournament, so they stopped streaming people from upstairs. And another thing was, normally at these bigger events they have these TVs on the side that stream a match at the end of the table, but because of the locations of these TVs, they put them right by the doorways, and people were crowding around to watch them, so they just turned them off because there was like a fire hazard, and like we were blocking the exits, and people couldn't get in, so we just had to turn off the TVs. So upstairs we had a little bit less of that kind of privilege. We didn't get to go on the stream. We didn't get to have matches played on the side TVs, but we did have cell reception. So you get your perks and your drawbacks, but that was what we had upstairs versus what you guys had downstairs.
Yeah, it was an interesting trade-off. You know, usually, and shout out to Jimmy Kwok, who you guys know as Team Rocket Elite, he usually records both the nationals and both the U.S. nationals and the World Championships. He records on those side televisions of all those other matches, you know, that otherwise would go unnoticed in terms of filming. And people watch them, but you're not going to remember them. But he graciously always films for us, and we always get to review some of those matches later during the season, or just, you know, looking back at it later. So, you know, always thank you to him. Those are always great to have. And he basically couldn't do that today. So hopefully it's different for tomorrow. Hopefully there's less people there in that hallway. It's basically, you know, that fire hazard problem, and the fire marshal was complaining, you know, with not enough space along the barricade barrier area. But, you know, it's reasonable, I guess. But it was unfortunate.
Yeah, safety does come first. It's just unfortunate when it just small drawbacks to the event. But I mean, it's what can you do? You got to play it safe and just be ready for any kind of emergency. But it's great that Jimmy does record those things and puts them on his YouTube channel, Team Rocket Elite. So yeah, that's definitely something to check out because if you want to get even more content, like especially just watch more games from the World Championships, the ones that you don't get to see on the mainstream. They don't have commentary, but it's still great to see high level worlds play. And if you want to get as much of it as you can, you should definitely head over there.
Here's a lot of really old stuff from like the early days of VGC. I saw this recently. His stuff goes way back, so check him out if you get a chance, if you have time. He's got some really cool battle videos from way back. If you guys didn't notice while watching the stream or in the venue, the stage area was the Golden Gate Bridge. Did you guys notice this early on?
Yeah, I actually I noticed that like right when we got in, like they had all these big TVs set up, and then they had the Golden Gate Bridge right across it. The whole stage looked awesome, and like all the normal Pokemon signs that they have hanging from the ceiling were there. But there were some new ones. There were some ones that we haven't seen in a while. Like I saw a Vulpix up there, stuff like that. So they looked like they weren't reused ones like they typically go with. So that was nice that we got some new things hanging around. There's lots of the world's art that you see with Pikachu and the Snorlax and the starters moving around on that trolley. And yeah, that was like all over on like a bunch of different signs, places you could take pictures. It was a very well decorated event. It looked really cool, and lots of fun things to do and watch there.
Yeah, the main ballroom. Also, just to mention, aside from decorations, the 3 screens hanging from way up top, way up in at least in height, that is a solid 10 out of 10 because that's way better than having just the one main projector like we had at some of the nationals. We've had just the one projector, and then for both the side TCG and VGC streams, there's that regular size TV that's pretty close to the floor, and sometimes that can be hard to see. But having those raised up projection screens and right above each side, that is solid. I hope we can get that for the upcoming championships next season. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that was definitely a huge improvement. From my experience, I've been to like 2015 Nationals, and from there we had just one big screen for us to display to, and so we had to share that with TCG and just kind of go back and forth displaying the different games at different times. And then we also had at 2016 Nationals, that was the next big event that I had gone to. They had, like you said, the big stream in the middle, and then on the side they had a TV set up displaying either the TCG or VGC stream respectively. And those were a bit hard for us all to get onto, a bit hard for everyone to watch. If your game wasn't on the main stream, then everyone kind of had to look over a bunch of heads and see these small screens. But with 3 giant screens up top, you're going to get a lot of Pokemon action, whether you're into the TCG or the VGC, and it's just really cool.
One thing I was going to add too is being at the event in person is that you can hear the people cheering, whereas you really can't do that as well if you're watching on stream. So it is definitely a different experience. Like especially if you see certain moves get hit or miss, or somebody made a really good call, and people are just cheering for it, and I thought that was pretty cool to experience that in the audience.
Yeah, it is our first time, you and me, Calvin, experiencing the crowd hype just watching the event live and just getting really excited. It would be really cool if we had spectators here to do that too. But we've got competitors. We've got a lot of people who lost, who are ready to just watch, spend the rest of the event cheering people on. So we have those people now who can still get in, maybe, hopefully.
The main event is tomorrow, day 2, for the entry into the bracket stage, ultimately to decide our world champion. Do you guys have any final things to add before we head to bed? Because Alex needs to take his sleep turns now so he can stay up, so his Pokemon can stay up tomorrow during day 2. Because remember, this is San Francisco, and you guys need to wake up. You guys remember that the new show from the Full House that Danny Tanner worked on? Wake up, San Francisco. Yeah. That's what everyone's got to do tomorrow, in the Pokemon at least. Wake up, guys. Okay, so we're done for today. we'll see you guys for Saturday. Bye-bye. And we're back with Saturday's portion of the podcast. And at this point, it is very late in the night. We got home late because the event ran long. And we now know who our 2 finalists will be in the Masters division. We also know we had 24 players in the top cut bracket at the end of today. And lots of crazy stuff happened on day 2. But do you guys want to talk about this? Alex, you played in the event all day today. So let us know your thoughts and what you just made out of the entire day today.
Well, today, best of 3 was kind of a wild ride for me. I actually didn't have a single set go to game 3. I just lost really hard or won really hard, and I lost really hard more than I won really hard. So, unfortunately, barely went negative at 3-4. I was out pretty early at 2-3 in round 5. So, after that point, I just kind of played it out since it is day 2 Worlds, and I figured it was only 2 more rounds. Might as well just finish the tournament out. And it was a pretty crazy. There was a lot of team variety, surprisingly, which I thought was really neat. I faced a lot of different things and a lot of different types of teams. So that was really interesting. And then we came down to the 24-man bracket.
24 person.
24 person.
Anyone else have any thoughts on things that happened today? Pokemon-wise, no Japan in the elimination portion of the bracket.
Conan.
What about Conan?
I think he made it into the elimination.
Oh, yeah, he has Japanese blood. I don't know. I'm not sure if he has...
But he's represented by U.S., yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. He can represent Japan in heart. That's cool, you know?
Mm-hmm. But he was definitely eliminated. Spoilers, he's not one of the final 2.
Well, everyone knows. We'll have a champion by the time you guys hear this. We'll sound like crazy people when you're listening to this maybe a week or so after the event, or for a few days, really.
Yeah, we already know who won, but right now we're going to talk about our thoughts going into the finals. It's between Jonathan Evans and Wolf Glick, which means U.S. already won, so hooray for the United States of America.
We did it!
We won Worlds. We guaranteed it. There's also a couple other Pokemon that have already won Worlds. 3 of them, actually. Steven, do you know the 3?
That are previous champions?
No, 3 Pokemon that are guaranteed to be on the World's winning team.
Oh, because they're shared by both teams.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Mega Gengar, Hitmontop, and I can't think of
No, not Hitmontop. Hitmontop was on the other team.
Oh, I'm blanking on something then.
It's Kyogre and Bronzong.
Oh, cool.
So Mega Gengar, Hitmontop, or you got me saying Hitmontop now.
It's late. I told you.
It's Kyogre, Bronzong, and Mega Gengar. So both teams have that. That's already going to be on the World Champion team, and I think it's really interesting. I don't think a lot of people expected Kyogre to be the Pokemon to take it all. While there is still a chance that Groudon can win, and then Gengar being the Mega to take it, as opposed to Gengar or / Mega Manectric and Mega Ray. Between those 4 Megas, I don't think those were Megas that people would have expected to win the World Championships.
Not at all. I mean, either way, whoever wins, Kyogre's winning this thing too. So that's interesting. Didn't we just talk about that too?
Yeah. Yeah.
We thought there would be one Kyogre team. Or something like that make it to at least
because we expected
brackets.
Groudon to just dominate. Everyone was just gonna drop Kyogre because too many people have ways for Groudon to just be Kyogre. But it worked out in the end. Kyogre actually made it to the finals.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about something like that, like Pokemon choices we had over the weekend, really, and specifically today. There were a lot of different restricted cores that we didn't expect to see as popular as we thought we'd be seeing them. And this tournament was very different from the nationals we just experienced a few months ago.
Well, I think one of the biggest things from talking to people is it seemed like a lot of people were getting just repeated matchups, and a lot of people that I were talking to towards the bottom were just all hitting the wrong matchups. Like, a lot of people that paired for, like, Big 6 or Big B just kept running into double primals and, like, Ray Ogre, and they just got messed up by that. Or, like, people that were ready for double primals and stuff like that just kept getting Big 6. I heard that a lot of people just had some poor luck with matchup lottery, and some people had some great luck with matchup lottery and got a lot of easy matchups. Also, on a side note, I did want to mention 2 players representing Illinois made it into the top cut bracket. Andrew Nowak and Dane Zeman, both making it into the top 24 of the World Championships. That was really cool. I believe Dane was eliminated in the very first round, and Drew was too. But they both made it into the top 24. They finished strong enough to make it into that cut, and that's very cool for both of them.
Yes, our people were minutely represented in the bracket, but it was really cool to see them do well this at Worlds this weekend. We're proud of them, proud of all our American players, really, and just, great showing worldwide. The top cut bracket was pretty diverse in terms of nationalities being represented, and I guess continents too. We had Australia, we had some Latin America, and we had Europe. There were some unfortunate Europe matchups. We saw in, I want to say it was top 16 maybe, that we had the Great Britain versus Great Britain, and I thought that was unfortunate because I know both Jamie Boyd and Barry Anderson are very good players, and it was unfortunate that they had to knock each other out. But in terms of the bracket, what else did you guys see? In terms of matchups, in terms of Pokemon you saw, anything else?
I think one of the most notable ones was that top 4 match between Marcus Statter and Wolf Glick.
The mirror. Their true mirror.
Yeah,
I almost imagine that their stats were the exact same.
I wonder if they, came up with that team together or something, or how that ended up happening, because they had such similar teams. It was so strange. I wonder why they were running things that were just so similar to each other. Do you have any guesses?
It was magic.
Magic.
They happened to run into each other on, Showdown or something while practicing.
Oh.
And they thought, oh, this team is cool. We should, I think it'd be a good idea to use it.
All right.
That's how the team was created.
Yeah, and also, funnily enough, we saw it represented elsewhere in the top 8 by Barris.
Yes, that was Barris. He had the same idea, obviously.
Of course.
With that core. So that's pretty cool to see. But joking aside, that team was very strong, continually refreshing Fake Out and Intimidate, just cycling those in and out all the time, keeps putting on a lot of pressure on your opponent to basically just not mess up the turn.
Also, constant weather control.
Yeah, that team was very well prepared for, the standard teams and some other stuff that we didn't expect. And we'll go into this in more depth in the future.
Oh, you know what I noticed today is that there are teams that, I guess, they like to hit their own partners.
Yeah, we did actually see that 3 times on stream, I believe.
I agree. There are multiple instances of just Pokemon hitting their partners, in the hopes of gaining stat boosts as well as better positioning in the games. Mm-hmm. So, very smart play from those players. I thought, that's a very creative way to get that positioning. Normally something you usually don't see in other formats where there's less power involved, but every turn counts. Doing something like that, so it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, we're used to seeing in this year and previous years where Kangaskhan has been allowed, seeing it power up punch to the side into its own partner when it's resisting the attack and not taking very much damage. But we actually saw a power up punch into the Smeargle, almost trying to either take it out, or maybe it was Eevee to live that attack and then continue to Dark Void since it was holding the Choice Scarf. I thought that was a very interesting strategy. Boz used low kick on his own Scarf Smeargle, I believe it was Scarf, to break out of the Gengar's Shadow Tag lock and to start getting some more offensive Pokemon in. And then Marcus Sludge Bombed his own Raichu with the intention of using the Endeavor on it to start weakening Wolf's team. Unfortunately, he got the poison, which meant he was kind of on a timer, and he actually didn't end up getting any Endeavors off. He switched in and just fainted, but it was a neat idea. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was just thinking, like, all kinds of things. I was just like, I don't even know what he's doing, and then I believe it was Calvin that told me, yeah, he's trying to Endeavor things, and I was like, wow, that's very cool.
Yeah, no misclicks this time. At least we don't think.
Yeah, maybe it was a misclick, and he's just trying to pull it off like it was actually on purpose.
Any other matches you guys remember in terms of highlights from the day, from either watching or playing or anything?
Yeah, definitely. The last one I want to mention was actually the very last match of the day, that Eduardo versus Jonathan Evans. It was looking like Game 1 was very one-sided, then Game 2 was very one-sided the other way, and then in Game 3, John was in a pretty positive position, but then he let his Gengar get paralyzed, and so things were looking very good for Eduardo. But there was that one turn where he went for Origin Pulse as the Groudon subbed, and then Hidden Power Water from his own Gengar to take out the Groudon. And that was just amazing, because he had a completely free Precipice Blades to just take out the two Pokemon, but he chose to substitute, and Jonathan completely called him on that. And it actually ended up bringing the set back for him, and he won it, and now he made it into the finals.
Yeah, it was a very good play. Fortunate that the Origin Pulse hit. If it missed, we could have seen whole kinds of different results, but it was very well played by Jonathan. We'll see him in the finals tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Playing against Wolf, that'll be a very tough one on both ends, I think. But yeah, he maintained control through that battle. It seemed like once the Groudon got knocked out, because Eduardo didn't bring his Xerneas, that Jonathan pretty much had the game locked up from that point. He just didn't have enough damage output to close it. And you saw at the end that Eduardo seemed to be going for timer once there was a possibility of a chance. So if anyone else noticed that too. But congrats to all the players who did so well in the bracket this year. The tournament structure was a very positive change, and it was just a good thing to not have to worry about opponent's resistance, especially at the most important tournament of the year.
Yeah, only marginally did it actually play a factor for those people to get those buys from the top 32 matches versus getting straight into that top 16. But having it cut down so much compared to previous years is a huge deal. And having a bigger cut than 8 allows for a lot more high play to be seen, and it's just a really cool deal to just minimize that factor of resistance. But anyway, I think that's about it for today. We're looking forward to finals tomorrow. Might also do some sightseeing of the city. But we're definitely going to be there for that finals match. At least I know I want to be. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be there.
So, yeah, that'll be exciting to see it live with the crowd just cheering, everyone crowding around to watch this. Make sure to tune in on stream, or I'm saying that now, but you guys won't hear this for a while. So, go check it out if you didn't watch it already.
I'll watch it again if you have watched it.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a very good set.
Yeah.
Both players are going to be hungry for that title.
Yeah, it's going to be aggressive. They're probably planning it as we speak. So
this is going to sound really stupid when you guys listen to this back.
Yeah, they're going to be like, wow, like this is old news. Like we already know what happened. We watched this live.
These guys are idiots.
Anyways, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
And we're back with Sunday's portion of the episode, the final portion of the episode, because Worlds is now officially over. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about our morning today. instead of sleeping in, we decided to wake up really early to go do some sightseeing. We got to see the Golden Gate Bridge. What did you guys think?
It's really big.
That's it?
Well, it's red.
It's interesting. We get to see the whole city from a distance. It looks great. Saw some wildlife when we're out there as well. Some wild Pokemon.
Oh, yeah. It's a wild Pokemon.
And then they're also not being sarcastic about that. We did play some Go on the bridge. There are actually a lot of Pokemon on there, but we did actually see seals or sea lions down in the water on the
Those
rocks.
are really cool.
Those were, and we're not lying. We have pictures and video and stuff.
Steven is not lying.
Nope. It was good. It was really cool. We did do a lot of walking. We walked across the entire bridge from south to north first. And we tried to find the bus stop on the other end that would get us back to the city, and we couldn't find it, and we just decided, okay, we're gonna walk back. So I don't know if you guys were as thrilled about that, or I don't know if any of us were thrilled about that, but we just put our legs on autopilot and got back to see the finals.
It was nice because I got my 10,000 steps in on my Fitbit. Shout out to Fitbit. Really early in the day, and by the end of the day, I think I might even have like 20,000 by now, which is ridiculous. I think we walked, because I looked up the distance. I think it's nearly 2 miles, the length of the bridge, and so we walked definitely over 2 miles, probably over 3 miles.
Is that one way or round trip?
Well, I looked up the distance of the bridge, and it's like 8,000 or so feet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we went there and back, so 8,000 or so feet. That's like.
Yeah, it's about 2 to 3 miles, somewhere in there, in between.
Yep, so we walked quite a distance. That was pretty tiring, but also very fun, and we got to see the bridge up close and actually walk on it. Very cool sights. And then, yeah, like you said, we got to the venue just in time to like get food and then sit down and start eating the food right before the matches started. And right then, we got to see Juniors finals, so I guess now we can talk about that.
Yeah, we saw Corey Connor emerge victorious in a big win over, I think it was Shu Harasaki was his opponent. And it was very good games, very well played by him. And it's great to see Corey win in the juniors like that, just because he's seen success during his time in juniors and finally got that world's title. I don't know if he's aging up yet for the next season, but he's going to be a force to be reckoned with, whether he stays in juniors or advances up.
I think he played it really well. It was very cool to see him pilot the team so dominantly. It was just scary to see. Like his play looked like almost that of Masters, and
yeah, he was also using the Ray Ogre, inspired by the senior division winning team back at U.S. Nationals. So we had another Ray Ogre win Worlds this year, besides the Masters.
And him on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
Him on top was on the team, so him on top did claim 2 titles. And then I don't want to cover, because there's something that actually happened across all divisions, but we'll cover that as we go along. But moving on, we did watch the seniors finals as well. And what did you guys think of that?
I actually don't remember that much, but you guys want to talk. Like, help me refresh my memory. So, for some reason, I can't remember seniors that well. I think it was a Big Six versus Double Primal, but do you guys remember what happened?
Yeah, that's right. It was Big Six versus Double Primal, and I thought that was very interesting because, while it's nice to not see Big Six cover all of the finalists, it's fun to see people play against Big Six when you're not facing it, because then you get the Moody boosts, and Moody boosts are just great for a crowd. Every time you see Moody come up, and it's like, what's it going to be? What's it going to raise? And then, like, accuracy goes up, and the crowd cheers out, and then, speed falls, and everybody yells out again, or, like, evasiveness, and you hear a huge yell, and it was really funny. Like, you hear, like, a bunch of the crowd chanting, like, Moody, Moody, just cheering out for, like, all this, like, fun bad luck that, or good luck, whichever way you look at it. And it's just fun when you're not on the other side of it.
Yeah, it's probably very entertaining for people in the crowd, people watching on the stream, but it must be very aggravating for both players.
Oh yes, yeah. It's just there's no control there. It's just completely up in the air, and you never know what you're going to get, which is just the fun of it or the horror of it.
Nothing.
I thought it was probably, well, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's sort of spoilers, but it was probably the closest of the 3 finals matches.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, actually, yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because that was only one that went.
Yeah, that was the only one in Game
games.
3. The other ones were 1 and 2-0s, and yeah, it was a close set. There was definitely some adaptions, which I thought was really cool over the set. They did some similar leads throughout, but they changed up the way they played them, and obviously one player won game 1 and then the other player won game 2. So some of these adaptions or changes that they made to their game plan worked, and some of them didn't. So it was kind of neat to see that develop over the course of the set.
And that's enough about seniors. We did end up seeing Carson Confer come out on top in a very close 3-game set against Yuki Wata. Completing the U.S. sweep at that point. Heading into the Masters finals, we'd already known it was U.S. versus U.S. for Masters, and the sweep was complete at that point. So,
USA.
moving on, we have the finals match. What did you guys think?
Jonathan Evan versus Wolf Glick. That was a fun one from the beginning. They actually had 3 of the same Pokemon between the 2 teams, so we already knew that Bronzong, Kyogre, and Mega Gengar had won Masters Worlds. It was kind of interesting to know that. And by this point in the day, like you mentioned with the American sweep, we also had a Kyogre sweep. Kyogre was on every team, which is something that I thought nobody saw coming into the event. Groudon has been the dominant primal all season. It's been up there with the highest usage stat of any season we've ever seen. And it actually was only on one of the finalists' teams, I believe. Only one. No, it was on 2, because there was 2 double primals. There was 1 in seniors, 1 in masters. But it only won 1. In the seniors division, double primal did come out on top. And yeah, but Kyogre won every single final, which was just ridiculous because, Groudon has been so popular, and I'm kind of repeating myself. But anyway, it was a very close set. Not really. A lot of the commentators like to say that, but I think personally, Wolf had it under control the whole time. He was playing very strong, just patiently like he normally does, running down the time, and just trying to put himself in the best position, like he said, to just do damage, thinking many, many turns ahead because of his team and how much switching potential it had, board control it had, and fake out all over and volt switch and eject button, causing all that to work in his favor. And he ended up taking it 2-0 over Jonathan Evans. What did you guys think that was interesting during the set?
I thought it was interesting that Wolf switched in Raichu on 2 separate occasions when Kyogre was doing Thunder.
What's more interesting about that is that Jonathan was going for those Thunders when Airlock was active. So I was still a little confused with that.
Yeah, that wasn't as silly as his yesterday play where he went for HP Water. I think it was in Trick Room, and then he brought in Kyogre. But if he had switched in Groudon, the sun would have been up. But he ended up HP Watering a Thundurus. That was in the semifinal match.
Oh, yeah,
against
I remember
Eduardo. That's a bit of a complicated situation to play, but if you go back and watch closely, you'll see that if he had actually tried to Hidden Power Water the Groudon on the switch in, the sun would have been up and it would have looked very silly. But yeah, the Thunders, very low accuracy. Not very low accuracy, but relatively low accuracy when it's used in the airlock. So maybe just kind of going all in because the matchup didn't look great for him, or maybe just expecting a switch into something else besides Raichu, or maybe expecting Ray to go out. But the Thunders didn't land. Raichu came in and disrupted it, and actually ended up being a huge factor in the set.
Yeah, Wolf was able to take game 1, and in both games, Jonathan did mention later that he felt like he didn't play as well as he could have during those games, And it did seem like after maybe one turn or two, Wolf seemed in control of the match. So props to him, congratulations to him. You know, very. It looks like a simple team, but it looks like it's very difficult to pilot. There are gonna be probably post Worlds a lot of people trying to be copycats. You know, use this successful Worlds winning team in the Masters division, and it's not gonna be easy to pilot. You know, only some of the best players in the world where we saw 3 of these teams reach the top 8 of Worlds, and those were obviously excellent players in Varus, Marcus, and Wolf, and that's gonna be. You know, I imagine we'll see a bit of it during post Worlds coming up in the fall. But what do you guys think about that in terms of the playstyle of the team, and what do we think of what's going to happen in the fall?
Well, it's the kind of team that requires a lot of planning ahead. You almost have to know, few turns in the future what your board position should look like, and and act accordingly. And that's something that's very difficult to do, even for some experienced players.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, because during Wolf's winner's interview after he just won Worlds, he really explains that really well. How on the surface, when he was making certain plays during individual turns, they didn't necessarily look that great, or to maybe a novice player, but you could see he was setting up his board positioning for turns in the future, and that's really what that team excelled at.
Right. So like there are several turns where he would just, let's say, do a switch and protect, or something along those lines, where he's not really causing damage, but he's waiting for the right opportunity to, let's say, set up a sword stance, or do a big water move or something like that. And I think that's a very great play by him.
And to no surprise, Game 1 went to timer. Game 2 did not, because Wolf pretty much had it locked up. But he could have taken that to timer if he chose to.
It was only like 45 seconds away, and he had it locked. If he just double protected, he won 2 or something along those lines. But he just took the safe win and finished it just before the time ended. But you know how a game goes when Wolf's playing. It's going to run all the way down. He's going to use that full extent of the timer, and possibly just to win the game, if not just to win it just beforehand like he did in that game too.
Yeah, we're not knocking the use of the clock like that in any way. That's
Totally
perfect.
not.
Yeah, perfectly just any player's right to go for that win condition. And while he's notorious for kind of starting that timer craze, before we even had an official timer.
Mm-hmm.
He did a really good job of it. And, he's mastered that kind of style, and no knocks on him or anyone who plays that style at all. So
I think it's really interesting how well that team was built for the timer in a format like this, where there's such high offense. He had so many ways to just stall momentum and stall time. Like, obviously, there's the 2 fake out users to kind of make dead turns if he chooses to. There are turns where he can actually take nearly 3 minutes just for one move. If he did so, what he could do is Raichu you take your 45 seconds or so to pick your move, and Raichu volt switches, and if you volt switch out to Hitmontop, you have 45 seconds to pick that Pokemon that you're going to switch into, which is probably going to be Hitmontop normally. And for this situation to work out, for the turn to take as long as possible, it's going to be Hitmontop. So you take 45 seconds, wait, switch in Hitmontop, and then when you get Hitmontop in, it gets hit. Eject button pops it out, and then 45 seconds again for another switch timer, which is just, it all adds up very quickly. And if he's constantly doing this through the whole game, volt switching and then getting off even more fake outs and stuff, the timer's just going to run down and down and down. And then if he just manages to KO 1 or 2 Pokemon and keep his around, he's going to just stall the rest of the game with more fake outs and just take it home from there.
Yeah, it gives Wolf the advantage in that right. And there are turns that not only during Jonathan's set with him, but I'm sure during the course of the entire tournament that teams set up Trick Room against Wolf, and with the constant fake out pressure, they just probably weren't able to utilize them as well as they'd like. And by the time by the time the speeds were reverted back to normal in terms of turn order, Wolf was in much better control of the game at that point, if not already. So, very cool team. Congratulations to him. Very well deserved. We'll talk about this again in the future, but if you think about his past, if we're talking about Wolf's past tournament records, then other than 1 year, he's been X2 in each of them, and specifically for 2014 and 2015, he happened to be the X2s that bubbled, one of the X2s that bubbled, and imagine if we had this year's tournament structure in the past, what he could have done during those years. So it basically shows, he's one of the best around, and hopefully we see great things from him in the future.
Yeah, it's really great that he managed to finally pull this off. I'm sure it was a bit bittersweet getting second place in the past. But like you said, we're going to go dive into that more in the future. But I guess now we can move on to talk about the closing ceremony, which was actually pretty fun and very cool at the end. So what did you guys think of that? What exactly happened, if you could explain?
Well, traditionally during every closing ceremony, the hosts of the World Championships and the casters, I guess for casters that's recently, they will close out the entire tournament with an awards presentation for all the finalists and of the trading card game and video game. So that was really cool. They also had a closing video this year. I can't remember if they did it last year or not, but they had a really cool inspirational closing video, and that was really cool because even after coming out of a not so successful weekend for ourselves as much, it was really inspiring it somehow made me want to play again right away.
Mm-hmm. It was already uploaded to Pokemon's YouTube channel, so if you guys haven't seen it already, you should definitely check it out there. It was a really cool video just talking about what people love about Pokemon, what Pokemon means to them, and tons of clips and shots from Worlds that you might not have got to see if you were watching the stream. It shows you what it's like being there, and you should just go ahead and watch it yourself if you haven't already.
Calvin, any opinions on that?
I thought it was a great video. I mean, not that I was like very emotional or anything, but it definitely stirred up some emotion to think that yes, I love this game, and that video certainly reminded me of why I do love this game, and it definitely makes me want to keep playing this game into the future.
Right. While we specifically talked about the video game, it was encouraging people of whatever you wanted to play, whether it's the card game, whether it's the video game, whether it's Pokken Tournament, to come out and try it, and you'll love it. It's a great experience. Worlds was a great experience. Other than that, they did reveal the location for next year, which was Anaheim. What are your opinions, guys? Just this has only been a few hours since they announced this. What are you guys thinking right now?
My initial thought was that I'm just slightly bummed we're going right back to California. I was like, I want to explore other parts of the world a little more, or other parts of the U.S., and I'm just a bit bummed that we ended up in the exact same spot, just a little bit further away. It's going to be the same trip, but I think it'll still be fun. I'm excited for it, and I've heard it's cheaper, so that's nice.
Yeah, it's cheaper, and I think Southern California has somewhat different weather pattern than here in San Francisco. So that will be, a different change for anyone who was here this year, and will end up going to Anaheim next year.
Yeah, when Steven loses out in day one again, he'll end up going to the beach to de-stress.
That's right. That is a great place. We didn't really have that option here. It's colder.
Yeah, I'm not going to go swim in that cold water.
Actually, probably won't even qualify for Worlds, so there's that.
Okay. I'll make you qualify for Worlds.
Ooh.
I'm not going to let Steven quit.
Let's not obstruct the spirit of the game in any way. That wouldn't be a cool thing to do.
Oh no, spirit of the game is a very important part of the video game and trading card game championships.
But what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Anaheim.
I guess my opinion on that would just be little bit surprised that they will want to go back to California, 2 years in a row. I don't remember if there were any past situations like that where they went to the same place, the same state or general area twice in a row.
I want to say maybe to that. I think it was before the video game's time, before we got started in the worlds, but I don't know. I'd have to look at that list again. Mm-hmm. But maybe it's happened before, maybe not. But hooray, staying in the same state. But I nailed it. I got the area right. I'm so happy about that. I just had this weird gut feeling.
They were going right back.
I had absolutely no insider information, whether you believe that or not. But it's pretty cool. I'm excited for next year already.
You're not even going to qualify.
I know. It's still exciting to be playing in Sun and Moon. This fall is going to be a very interesting type of train wreck. But we'll talk about that in a very future episode.
Yeah. When news is announced about how the next season will run, we'll definitely talk about all that kind of stuff and talk about what the future is for this season upcoming.
Yeah. But before we close off, does anyone have any final thoughts on the 2016 Worlds experience?
Well, it was Calvin and I's first Worlds for the both of us, and from my perspective, I thought it was pretty fun. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of people that I got to see. It was really cool to get the international perspective. Like I said, that was one of the things I was most excited for, and it was very cool just talking and playing with all these different players, different play styles, and I'm still a bit disappointed that my run was cut shorter than I'd like, but I did well. I think I had a pretty alright first Worlds, and I'm looking to just improve from here next time in Anaheim.
Yes, I guess for me it was definitely a great experience, even if I didn't do as well as I would have liked. Especially since there are actually a lot of great things I can do in the city, even if I wasn't playing Pokemon over the weekend. Unlike some of the other places we've been to for like the national events, not as exciting of a city, maybe.
San Francisco wasn't an exciting city?
No, I'm talking about like Indianapolis and Columbus and places like that, like the nationals. Because this is my first World event, so because they're held in bigger cities, where there's more things to do.
Yeah, maybe. Well, it seems pretty exciting. We just heard police sirens running by our hotel. But I guess my thoughts on World's experience again. Great playing with the international players. It's great to play against some of the best in the world. We saw one of our best players come out on top finally in Wolf Glick. So that was a great thing to see. Corey Connor too in his division, and Carson Confer. Congratulations to all the world champions. Other than the World's experience, San Francisco was great. Weather, seems typical from what we experienced. Foggy in the morning, kind of cold, and then sunny and a little chilly during the day. But that was kind of expected. But the Pokemon, it was great getting to, witness some TCG and Pokken too, especially at this stage. It was very cool to experience all Pokemon has to offer from the competitive scene. But that'll about do it for this episode of the Hyper Voice. We hope you guys check us out in the future. If you haven't listened to episode 1, you should definitely go back to check that out. We want to thank Kelvin Chan for joining us on this episode of the Hyper Voice. Kelvin is not currently on Twitter, but if you had the urge to get in contact with him, he is on Facebook, so you can find him there. I'm sure he'll be nice enough to respond to any messages you may have for him. So that'll be cool. And Alex does have Twitter. People can follow you
at Lexicon VGC.
And you guys can follow me at Super Morioka. And that's it for this episode and for Worlds. We'll give you a small preview on what we're doing next. Obviously we've been doing these episodes night by night here in San Francisco. And the next one we'll do a more in-depth analysis of Worlds again. and I'm sure there have already been lots of other things said just within the few days after we recorded this. So we'll have some more information. We'll have some more, hopefully, useful statistics for everyone. But that's it for us. We'll see you guys next time.
Yep, see you guys around.
Bye, and thank you again to Steven and Alex for giving me the opportunity to join in on the fun.
Anyway, I think that's about enough for seniors, and now we can actually talk about the...
We didn't mention their names at all. We gotta do that. Do you remember them?
No.
Carson Confer and who was the... Oh, Yuki Wada. Perfect.
Never did the bag.
What bag? We'll get to it.